This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, and thank you for being with us on this Friday. Advocates and experts say post-secondary students are struggling with mental health. One of the ways they say supports can get better is by collecting information on mental health and suicides. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel brings us more.
Hello, Crisis Line.
This counselor listens to people in crisis. Some are experiencing suicidal thoughts. Thousands call the helplines at Clinic Community Health in Winnipeg each year. Many of them are students and youth.
It doesn't surprise me that folks such as post-secondary students are struggling right now. The human experience is really challenging.
For years, suicide has been the second leading cause of death in 15 to 24-year-olds. Most of Manitoba's major colleges and universities don't track deaths by suicide or suicide attempts. Clinic's Rochelle Reddy says it would improve the school's services.
It creates a gap in supports and services because if you don't know what supports are needed, then you can't generate funding for those supports. You can't indicate that there's a need for the funding for those supports.
CBC News asked 7 of Manitoba's largest colleges and universities whether or not they do this sort of tracking. 2 said they track student deaths by suicide internally. 4 said they do not track, and 1 school said it tracks on-campus medical events. Several schools say mental health is a priority, and they provide counseling and other wellness supports while respecting private health information. Canadian Mennonite University is the only institution that tracks both deaths by suicide and suicide attempts.
Anything you pay attention to gets your attention, and then you do something about it. So I would have a very strong call towards, yes, keep track of this.
A lot of progress has been made.
Clinic's Director of Community Health and Wellness is on board with collecting data if it means better services and tools.
I think if we can really talk about this as a health crisis and that this is a choice that people do make, but then give them options and support them, we'd actually curb this epidemic that we're facing right now.
CMU says its data and information helps coordinate and improve resources for students. They say it also destigmatizes mental health, so students feel comfortable reaching out for help when they need it. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
For anyone struggling with thoughts of suicide, help is available. You can call or text the Suicide Crisis Line. The number is 988 and available 24 hours per day. A massive wildfire continues to burn in northwestern Manitoba, but people from Cranberry Portage are getting some good news. The province says they will soon be able to go home. Meantime, people from Sourdough Bay, Whitefish Lake, Twin Lakes, and Schist Lake North will also be able to return to their homes. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has the latest.
The fire line near Cranberry Portage has been deemed under control, and the province says people from the area can go home Sunday morning, but no earlier than 10 a.m. A small number of properties have been damaged by the fire, but the province says they'll let people know before the area reopens. Now, the massive fire is still burning, but it hasn't gotten any closer to the community and hasn't grown either. The province says as of this afternoon, the blaze is about 37,000 hectares. There's also a handful of crews battling it right now, from helicopters to water bombers and hundreds of firefighters. Help is arriving from New Brunswick today and from Quebec over the long weekend. The province is also asking campers to monitor their fires. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Retail Council of Canada estimates about $200 million of goods are stolen in Manitoba each year. And an informal survey of their membership says there has been a huge increase in harassment and violent incidents at stores in the province. For about 6 months, the Winnipeg police have been running a retail theft initiative now. Officers beefed up their presence at retail hotspots around the city as part of an anti-theft initiative during the Christmas holidays and again during spring break. While the efforts in December saw 138 arrests, the spring break initiative didn't net those kind of results. Inspector Jennifer McKinnon, who oversees the Retail Theft Initiative, says it's because police used a different strategy, one that focused on trying to make shoppers and staff feel safer.
And it was decided to do a visible presence, so more of a deterrent method
instead of, catching people after they committed the offense. We listen to the community and understand the frustration, not only for the people that are attending stores to make their own purchases, but for the people who work in these stores. They're very fearful. They're frustrated. Store owners are frustrated, and the safety of their employees is actually paramount.
McKinnon says criminals are always adapting and finding new methods, and police must do the same. The Prime Minister was in Winnipeg today to promote his government's school nutrition program. Manitoba's Education Minister says the upcoming national program is piggybacking off of our province's work. Justin Trudeau was at Elwood Community School in the Maples preparing a meal for students. Nello Altamar was at the event as well. He says Manitoba is already working on a school meal program. By the fall, Manitoba will have meal programs in schools that don't already have them. Altamar says with federal help, Manitoba's program will be better than planned.
What's going to happen is that we're going to see where the needs truly are and where it's required the most. We see this as supplementary funding that's really going to help us in areas of the most need.
Manitoba will get a portion of the $200 million the feds are promising every year for its nutrition program. The exact amount, though, will be determined later on. Nurses in most of Manitoba have a ratified contract, but not those working in the province's largest hospital. The Manitoba Nurses Union says a collective agreement has been ratified by nurses in 5 of the province's 6 health authorities. The only members who haven't ratified a contract are the 3,400 nurses working for Shared Health, which covers the Health Sciences Centre, Cancer Care Manitoba, and other provincial programs. In a memo to its members, the union says information will be provided to those employed by Shared Health about next steps, including continued negotiations or a potential strike vote. A partnership between Fort White Alive and the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba wants to make sure dementia isn't an isolating experience. CBC intern Nadia Nickpour-Bader attended Tales Along the Trails to find out more.
Eleanor McMillan and her husband have always liked to do things together. But after his dementia diagnosis, getting out got hard. That was until they found Tales Along the Trail.
I couldn't believe how great it was.
It's a partnership program between South Winnipeg's Outdoor Education Centre, Fort White Alive, and the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba. In addition to having fun, they've joined a new community.
Not only was it a great time out, my husband enjoyed it, but the friendships and the companionship I've made with other spouses in the same situation. We have a lot to share. It's been wonderful.
The program promotes dementia-friendly communities, places that consider the needs of people living with dementia. Nicole McDonald is with the Alzheimer's Society. She says accommodations don't need to come at a cost.
We're talking about those simple changes that can be made that enable people living with dementia and their care partners to still go out and do the things in community that they love.
Dementia impacts memory, language, and visual processing skills, among others. Fort White Alive's program facilitator, Jeff Boozy, says Tales Along the Trails is like any other program, but with added considerations.
We tend to walk a little bit slower. We make sure to use nice plain language and just sort of remind people where we're at and why we're here.
The program allows for care partners to enjoy the experience too.
It's not necessarily like a therapy session or event session. It's a chance for them to just come out and enjoy a nice walk.
Maureen Monson is a retired school teacher. Her husband lives with Alzheimer's and enjoys the outdoors. Tales Along the Trail is an outing they both enjoy.
Dementia's hard. It's hard for the person living with it, it's hard for the caregiver, but for many people here today who have Alzheimer's, they truly live in the moment and they find joy being here.
In rain or shine, Tales Along the Trail runs every Wednesday until June 19th. Nadia Nickpour-Bader, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The 19th annual Manito Ahbee Festival is now underway.
Hello! Hey.
Students streamed through the grounds today ahead of a series of next-gen speakers this afternoon aimed at empowering youth. Grand entry takes place at 7 tonight ahead of a full weekend of performances, food, and a marketplace. Manito Ahbee wraps up Monday. Well, a pretty punishing spring storm moving through parts of Winnipeg and southern Manitoba last night. Pamela shooting this video in the St. James neighborhood, and you can see the hail just pelting down on her yard. It kind of looks like a snowstorm. Scenes like this as well from our own Holly Carrick shooting this in the Westwood neighborhood last night. And you can see some of this hail really looking like snow, but this is all pea to nickel-sized hail that fell, and it kind of looked like the streets were kind of covered in snow, but no, this was all hail. Manitoba Public Insurance says as of late this afternoon, they had about 1,150 claims of hail damage in the Winnipeg region alone. We also did see some pretty heavy rain with this system as well. Ethan Williams has more on that and your long weekend forecast.
Well, thanks, Riley. And those storms yesterday moving through Winnipeg really packing a punch. That one particular cell that moved through kind of right before the supper hour. And in West Winnipeg, it ended up dumping some toonie-sized hail, shovelable in some places. And we also got nearly 40 millimeters of rain in that part of the city just within the span of an hour or so. So quite a bit of rain falling. Downtown at the station, we picked up about 22 millimeters or so. Just northwest of the city, about 14.5 millimeters. And there was also a gust of 90 kilometers an hour reported south of Winnipeg near Morris. And that was the storm that prompted a tornado warning. But Environment Canada saying no tornadoes actually touching down last night. It is stormy once again through the province. You can't see, there's no radar coverage in northern Manitoba, but it is raining in the north today. And these are the cells that are the focus of the severe weather today in the province. Some severe thunderstorm watches and warnings popping up for these. This area of the province, including Brandon and Dauphin up to Swan River, under a severe thunderstorm watch for this evening as these cells continue to move through. And a couple of tornadoes are not to be ruled out with these storms this evening, so we'll keep an eye on that. Winds, as you can see, have also begun picking up as this area of low pressure is moving in. That is partly what is bringing the storms in, and it's also going to bring another band of Winnipeg, rain rather, to Winnipeg overnight tonight, and it starts moving northward tomorrow into the Flin Flon area and in through northern Manitoba. Then we start to see another band of rain start to move into the southwest tomorrow morning. That'll reach Winnipeg probably by about the noon hour or so, making for a soggy first day of the long weekend. Things clearing out in the south for Sunday, but you can see in the north, some of that rain could be changing over to snow. Probably not heavy snow, but kind of a mix of wet snow for early Sunday morning. And then we'll watch for the holiday Monday as our next system starts to move into southern Manitoba. Don't take these numbers to the bank, as always, because they may be taking into account some heavier pockets of rain or thunderstorms that may or may not happen. But especially in northern Manitoba, I think we are looking for an area of maybe 20 to 40 millimeters. Again, continues to be good for the fire situation there. A little bit of fog overnight at times could be making visibility a bit of a challenge in the Winnipeg area and along the Trans-Canada corridor, even at times tomorrow. And we are going to start to see those winds pick up through the weekend as well. Starting the day with a mix of sun and cloud and some possible showers. Noon, we're pretty much at our daytime high as we see some showers and those gusty winds, Riley, continuing through the afternoon with a chance of some thunderstorms as we get a little bit later into the day.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, of course, with the May long weekend here, Manitobans are itching to get back out to the great outdoors. CBC's Bryce Hoy brings us this story about a couple who is preparing to feed all of those hungry campers, cottagers, and people passing through the Lake Manitoba Narrows. CBC visited the region earlier this month as part of our Communities in Focus series.
Lake Manitoba Narrows. It's a beautiful, scenic place that most people just pass through. Daryl Beesmer and Tracy Fordham hope to meet them in the middle over dinner. Beesmer and Fordham grew up a lake apart. Tracy in Ochre River, west of Lake Manitoba. Daryl, 10 kilometers from the Narrows in the Interlake. Both moved on to other parts of the province. Then they got together about 5 years ago, decided to come back.
It's coming home. It's for both of us, really, I think, coming home.
Mm-hmm. And the homecoming also included starting a food truck business.
I don't think either of us ate for probably about 24 hours before we opened, and it was a bit of a gong show. We were late. We were 6-7 weeks late.
The trailer sits here, and we kind of put it on a bit of an angle so the window's facing the lake.
They opened Channel 204 Grill next to the bridge last year.
Here's another good one.
The menu, a mix of burgers and hot dogs, poutine and fries, ice cream, and Daryl's surprise favorite, the Mexican burger.
I didn't think I'd like it because it's got jalapeno peppers on it, yet it just all comes together. And when Tracy first made that first burger, it's like, man, this is amazing.
There were growing pains that first year. Delays opening, mechanical issues, unanticipated costs, but the customers did show up.
This is definitely a dream of mine. And I still, to this day, still keep asking him to make sure that it's something that he wants to do too, because I've dragged him along kicking and screaming.
And going into the second year of their business, Daryl and Tracy eager to meet and feed those passerby here in the middle. Channel 204 Grill reopens May long weekend. Bryce Hoy, CBC News, Lake Manitoba Narrows.
Still ahead, Canada's spy agency tells Canadians Beijing may be using TikTok to upload your data. That story after the break.
Thank you, Reed. You too. That's Reed Southwick from the CBC Business Desk. Ooh, sounding pretty fierce. That was a preview for Furioso, a Mad Max saga. It's just one of the many big premieres making a splash at this year's Cannes Film Festival. Movies from Francis Ford Coppola and Canadian filmmakers like David Cronenberg are also getting a lot of buzz. Our pop culture columnist Rad Simon Poulet is in Cannes and joins us to bring us the latest from that renowned film festival. Hi, Rad.
A new temporary pier built by the U.S. is helping bring desperately needed aid to Gaza. The first shipment of humanitarian aid has already started rolling into the besieged enclave. But even as they welcome it, UN officials say it's no replacement for deliveries by land. Margaret Evans reports.
Gaza's temporary pier, courtesy of the Americans, and now floating off the pained strip of land that is Gaza. A first shipment is already on shore. The pier promised as a temporary lifeline for Palestinians faced with potential starvation. But for those who've lost homes, livelihoods, and loved ones to Israel's brutal 7-month offensive, one hand gives while another takes away. They hit us at night, says Nadia Aldabs, and then support us during the day. We don't want ships, says Hassan Abu Al-Qas. We want the border crossings to open, for people to come and go. We want safety. Israel seized operational control of Gaza's crucial Rafah border crossing with Egypt earlier this month. Aid agencies say a floating pier can't replace the need for sustained assistance overland.
So we don't have medical supplies, we don't have a fuel. We have hospitals that are under evacuation order. We have a situation where we cannot move physically.
The closure, along with warnings to Palestinian residents and the hundreds of thousands still sheltering in Rafah to leave, raised fears of an imminent ground invasion there. But Israel calls it a limited operation, even though Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says more Israeli troops will be deployed there. Hamas cannot regroup at the moment, he's saying, insisting Israel is cutting off and wearing down the militant Islamist group. But with fierce fighting returning to areas Israel supposedly cleared months ago, there is little sign of an end to this war. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
The head of Canada's spy agency has a stark warning about TikTok and its alleged links to the Chinese government. The social media app has more than 1 billion users worldwide, but it has been deemed a threat by CSIS. And the Prime Minister says Canadians should listen. Ashley Burke has the story.
TikTok's one of the most popular video apps in the world. It's a place where anyone can go viral. But the country's top spy is warning Canadians to stay away.
As an individual, I would say that I would absolutely not recommend someone have TikTok.
David Vigneault told the host of CBC's The House, Catherine Cullen, that China's government has a clear strategy. Use TikTok to acquire users' personal information.
Most people can say, why? What is it a big deal for a teenager now to have their data? Well, in 5 years, in 10 years, that teenager will be a young adult, will be engaged in different activities around the world.
CSIS found that Beijing uses computer farms that crunch data to develop artificial intelligence. Experts warn that data mining from TikTok could be used for deepfakes, blackmail, and massive data hacks.
When the director of CSIS is pointing out that TikTok poses a real threat to the data security of Canadians, I think Canadians need to listen.
Over security concerns, U.S. President Joe Biden gave TikTok's parent company a year to sell the app or face a U.S. ban. Canada has forbidden the app on all government devices, but the Prime Minister says he's waiting to see what happens in the U.S.
The concerns are that the data that TikTok collects on all of its users gets simply funneled to the government of China and is used to, potentially for nefarious purposes.
We're Canadian. Of course we buy our milk in bags.
Canadian comedian Matthew Pujitsky makes his living by posting content online to sell tickets to his stand-up shows.
If your main interest is protecting data, what about like Meta and Facebook, Instagram? It's all like they make money by literally selling your data. So I kind of find it hard to understand what their logic is there.
Some experts say that the bigger problem is that there's nothing stopping social media companies from selling users' data, including to entities with strong links to China. TikTok says that it's never shared Canadian user data with the Chinese government and wouldn't if asked. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, we're looking at a bit of an unsettled weekend, long weekend, across much of the province. Ethan has our 7-day forecast next.
That was our pop culture columnist, Rad Simon Poulet, and he's in southern France at the Cannes Film Festival. Poor guy. And now joining us from the CBC Manitoba newsroom is Rosanna Hempel with one last look at the local headlines. Thank you, Rosanna. That's CBC's Rosanna Hempel, and joining me now in studio with one last look at the commute is Dylan Longhurst. Yes, we did. Crashed and burned. Skidding into the runway. So nice. I know. I'm so sorry, but because there is a chance of a thunderstorm, Dylan. Yep, I won't have my umbrella. Right. No. Do you have any plans?
No, all my plans are kind of next week. So the ball game on Tuesday, that's after the long weekend, but that Gold Eyes home opener is what I'm kind of looking forward to.
Ooh, yeah, that does sound like fun. My goodness.
Yeah, hopefully the weather stays good. Maybe it avoids that long weekend curse, though.
Yes, knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood right here now. Okay, thank you so much. That's our studio director and our show director, Dylan Longhurst, who's also a traffic reporter. And I want to thank everyone else who was involved with the show. Daniel Friesen is our show technician in Control Room 15. Nellie Gonzalez is our show producer. And Leif Larson is our senior producer of audio. And of course, we had Rosanna Hempel bringing us the CBC News from our Manitoba newsroom. I'm Emily Brass. I'm filling in for Faith Fundal. I've had a great time over the last couple of days, and I really hope we do all have a nice
Well, you wish you were as cool as Marco. He has his sunglasses on, getting ready for the long weekend. Thanks to Wade for sending in that shot, by the way. Unfortunately, he's not going to have a lot of sunshine to deal with tomorrow in Winnipeg as we see showers and possible thunderstorms with a daytime high of around 15 degrees. Maybe upwards of 10 millimeters as that system starts to move through around the noon hour or so. And then we are left with some rain showers come Sunday before things start to clear out as we head into the beginning of next week. And temperatures, though, for the most part, looks like going to be staying just below normal. Although, as we get into Thursday and Friday, some possible clearing skies, Riley. So there is some hope on the horizon, just maybe not for the long weekend.
Okay, thanks, Ethan. Well, it wouldn't be a Friday before a long weekend without a cute story about animals. Have a look at our Daily Lift tonight. This is our first look at a pair of adorable newborns, two snow leopard cubs born Monday at the Toronto Zoo. You can see here the cubs cuddling with their mother Jita. Pemba, who's the father, and Jita came to Toronto as part of the snow leopard species survival plan. The cute cubs aren't ready to be put on view just yet, but maybe soon. So the video will have to suffice. That is our program for this evening. I'm on the radio Saturday and Monday, but I'll be back here on TV on Tuesday. Have a great long weekend, and we'll see you back here Tuesday evening.